STUV.
I'd like to call the regular scheduled meeting of June the 16th, 2026 to order. No public hearings scheduled for this evening. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda from administration?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, administration would like to add one. It's under personnel, under section 29(1)A, and that'll be in closed session.
And that's 29(1)A of ATIA.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, it's just advice from officials.
Anything from council? Seeing anything, I'll look for a motion to accept the amendments to the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Discussion? Call that question. All in favor? And a motion to accept the amended agenda. Councillor Cosby?
Motion to accept the amended agenda, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. No public input or delegations tonight, but we do have a presentation. We have a presentation from the Redwater Fellowship of Churches Food Bank, and our guests are here to give us a Q1 update. So the floor is yours, ladies. Please let us know what and why and how and all those other things.
First of all, thank you very much for having us tonight. I'm Susan Proctor. I'm the chairperson of our food bank. This is Terry Hanna. She's our secretary of our food bank and one of my very good elves. I call all my volunteer elves because they're work magic. First off, I would like to say I apologize for our tardiness in getting this report to you. It should have been done October of last year. Unfortunately, we had some major shakeup at the food bank, and I'm not saying you weren't a priority, you definitely were, but we had other items that we had to deal with involving financing and bidding, things like that. So I understand you have a copy of the paperwork in front of you. The only thing I did bring additional, which you may have, is I've been able to give you updated numbers as of May 31st of this year for our expenses, our budgeting, where we're at. So I will leave that so that you guys can have that to look at. It's not included in this package. I only did the first quarter. The food bank is still seeing growth as far as taking on new people. The week before last, we had 3 walk-ins. Last week, we had another walk-in. The area is growing with people, and I don't really know where they're all coming from. They're lost. Some of them are homeless, which is a challenge for the food bank, as Mel and Dave and Ed would know because they volunteered there, trying to find facilities that they can cook food on after the supply, which then puts a pressure on our food bank because then we have to try and accommodate, if they only have a microwave, getting microwavable food. So that is always an ongoing battle. We're very fortunate with the help that we receive from council here and the town. The building we're in, it's fantastic. And being able to, I don't want to say come and go, but we do come and go without having to tear anyone else away to let us into the facility is fantastic. The other service groups, the Lions Club, now the Pioneer Club, and Citizens on Patrol have been a huge benefit for us. They help any way they can. A simple call and they're there. So we do really, really appreciate that. Do you have any questions in regards to the brochure pamphlets or whatever I sent out to you about our budgeting and our financing and our year-to-date?
Councillor, any questions?
Just as a matter of transparency, I was on the board of the food bank. I have resigned the position. I am still active as a volunteer and plan to continue. Just so everybody's aware that.
He's still my elf that goes and picks up for me. He's not my elf that keeps me in line for the budget.
sometimes becomes that difficult line when you have that board position or that extra special link to a community group. But it's certainly within the norm for elected officials to be part and parcel of our community in what they do and how they operate. So that's understood.
Our budget for this year, running budget, is $136,931. So far, we are keeping very, very close eye on the cost of food and how things are playing out with that. We have been very fortunate with the new manager of the Red Apple in town. She is working very, very closely with us in the form of anything we can't get through IGA or the co-op in Thorhill. She is able to source through her place. And on top of that, she gives us 10% off everything we purchase, so it's a bonus. A lot of people don't realize how big the area is that we service. They're quite shocked. They think it's just Redwater. It's not. It's all of Thorhill County and a portion of eastern Sturgeon. Sturgeon has not been very helpful, I guess is a polite way to put it, in trying to assist in any of their clients. We have approximately 6 clients from eastern Sturgeon that we're dealing with. Thorhill County, working with Tammy there, has been fantastic. We send her our figures every month, and their counsel has just been great to deal with also. They're next on my agenda to go and visit and apologize for the tardiness. Yeah, it is what it is. We're moving forward. We're down now because Mr. Ed left to 16 volunteers, and all of us are volunteers. Not one of us gets paid. We have quite a few that will not even take gas money if I have to ask them to go out of town, which has happened. We've gone to Boyle to pick up food because Athabasca, for some unknown reason, doesn't want to deal with the Boyle Co-op. The meat manager, who is now the manager in Boyle, he was great to us. So he calls us up. I have a van of this. I have a truck of this. And we will find a volunteer to drive to Boyle. So it's an ongoing process. We definitely need more volunteers, as every organization does. I don't know why people nowadays don't like to come and help, but the strict restrictions that we are under in trying to get volunteers is challenging, to say the least. We've just adopted, through the provincial government, we now must have police record checks for our volunteers.
You must have,
Police record checks.
yes, okay.
We've never had that before. For 32 years, this food bank has operated on a handshake and a wink, basically. So we just are trying to make the best of things with what we have.
Anything else for Susan? Go ahead, Councilor Cook.
Susan, there is no way to thank you enough for what you've done, how you've mentored people, how you've helped the people in the town. And I know at times, sometimes it seems overwhelming, but you always have a smile on your face for these people that need help. Bless you.
I couldn't do it. As I say, it's not a one-man, one-person team. It is definitely a team of elves. They are magic. I've had to call in the past on a Sunday. Can you come down and help me do a hamper? We have a family that needs help. They've moved and it's Sunday. We're not open. We make the arrangements to do it. That fire that we had last year so close to town, we were able within a matter of hours to give that poor family that had to evacuate because of the loss of their property and home. They had more than enough food to see them through that weekend, and then we made sure come the Tuesday or Monday when we were open, that they had enough food to see them through for the rest of the month. They have now paid it back to the food bank. We have taken on, through community services, a gentleman went to them looking to do time because he owed money in fines, and instead of going to jail, we worked with him, and he now donates regularly every month back to the food bank. And if it wasn't for the group next door, there's lots of times I would be lost. I am Charity Prudence, as I call her. She's a wealth of information. She lends a helping hand wherever she can. And I did not know until just recently she was not getting our facts and numbers that we send to Thorhill. So starting the first of this month, as of June, she will be given monthly updates on our stats of where we stand, how many people we have fed, how many hampers go out the door. Because just because one hamper goes out, it could be a family of 7 or 8, it could be a family of 1. So unfortunately, people sometimes like to talk, and they talk out of the side of their mouth, as I put it. False information has been given out in regards to how many people we feed in a month, how many people we feed in a year. I was asked by Ken about the numbers of people that we feed. How accurate is it? And I told him it's 110%. And Ed, Dave, and Mel would know that's true. It's done 2 ways. It's done by paperwork by one person, and then it's done by computer work by another person. If those numbers don't match, we're down to the nitty-gritty. Who missed what? Was someone double taken? Was someone not taken? So our stats are definitely 110% accurate.
In your cover letter, you mentioned that 2025 saw a 30% increase over 2024. And I just did some really quick math here on your next line in your letter about the first quarter. That looks like another 30% increase compared to year over year from last year.
Yes. January is a really bad month for us. A lot of people overspend at Christmas. And unfortunately, with the way things are going, and everyone, you know, both parents are working. We have a lot of working class poor. A lot. I mean, we've got families of just 4, and they can't support themselves because gas has gone up. You know, they've got 2 vehicles, car insurance has gone up, housing's gone up, rent is astronomical. And before you know it, they become full-time clients. So we're hoping we stay at this number, that we don't see a huge increase anymore. Or the community garden's going to be growing because I'm going to be planting my own vegetables out there for the food bank.
Anything else through to Sue? Lady? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Cowley.
On that recruitment, we used to, like I responded or volunteered as a result of the calendar, the monthly calendar. There used to be a thing saying the food bank needs volunteers. Is there any possibility of that?
Yes, I spoke with Danielle 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago roughly, and she is looking into how we can get back. There's a rotation, my understanding, of people that, other organizations that would like to put a little blurb there. So we are working on that. I've also been working with one of my little elves to come up with a for hire or volunteerism or whatever for an ad that will go in the newspaper. Will run hopefully for 3 weeks. And then we have a lady that's been offered to do like a web page for us that will constantly be up, volunteers needed. So yes, Ed, to answer your question, yes, I'm working with Danielle to get that back into the community newsletter that goes out. every month.
I'm sure her boss will be cooperative there.
Well, unless he would like me to kick him in the ankle. But again, it's hard. Everybody belongs to a different organization, you know? I mean, Rob at the Legion, Mel with, you know, Citizens on Patrol. It's just hard, you know? And it's only old people like us that like to volunteer, apparently. I would definitely like to open our doors for anyone that has not seen our facility and how we work. Please, please, give me a call. I'll gladly meet you at your time. It doesn't have to be during what we call our operational hours. If you can make it on a Saturday at 4, I'll meet you Saturday at 4 to see what we do, how we do it. When you come in there, it looks like the shelves are pretty bare, but there is a strict guideline that we have to follow in handing out supplies or food. We have to follow the food guide, first off. But second of all, the provincial government sort of has a list of items. So much produce, so much dairy, so much protein that we must give out. We meet that and go beyond it.
Did you have something, Mr. Van Buel?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, if I could, to clarify why I was asking if the statistics were correct. One of the things, as council knows, we're in discussions with Sturgeon County on different cost share models, et cetera, et cetera. And from my perspective, this is one of those items that isn't explicitly spelt out in the ICF agreement, but is frankly another example of Redwater being a regional service provider, and you know there needs to be an acknowledgement of that within the ICF and our cost share agreements on a go-forward basis.
And that would be greatly appreciated. Thorhill jumped on the bandwagon when they were approached many, many years, long before my time, to work hand in hand with Redwater. Sturgeon, I understand they're a big area also, and they have their own problems. But it would be very nice if we could not say rely on, but I'm going to say rely on that they're going to help us with their people. We're not asking them to supply the food. We're not asking them, but, you know, a thank you, I think, would be greatly appreciated. There's been a couple of years that we've received no funding from Sturgeon at all. And then some funding that we do receive is, I know 2 years ago it was $250. That doesn't even feed one family for me. You know, it is what it is.
You can guarantee it will be part of the challenge for us going forward. I know it will be.
And if you, as I did say to Ken, if you need numbers or names or anything like that, I will more than happy give it out. It's, I'm not giving out addresses or phone numbers, but I can give out names, you know, to councils. Yeah, it's sad. It really is. It would be terrible after 32 years if this food bank had to fold.
Anything else through to the food bank?
Just to clarify, I think Sturgeon did send this year.
This year, we did get money this year.
I just don't, if this is being recorded and that, I just don't want them to see that we're being.
No,
They're-
yeah. We did receive a small stipend from them.
One of the, as you have mentioned, I did volunteer with the food bank for some time. My schedule is such that I can't get those regular chunks in and out like I used to. But I can tell you that if you need any of those pickups, you can always phone.
Thank you.
Don't ever hesitate to phone, because I'm sure myself or some others on council would be more than happy to help if we can. It's the scheduling that's the tough part, but just knowing that our phone number still works is an asset, I'm sure, so.
And I have one more thing before you let me go, something for you to think about, talk about. We have worked out with FCSS in Thorhill that they have quite a few families that belong to our food bank that don't have vehicles to come and get food. So they, Tammy graciously makes the arrangements for someone from Thorhill to come over to the food bank, pick up the hampers, and deliver them. And it's been very, very effective over the past year in doing that. Redwater does not have such a thing with no taxi service or bus service. Some of our shut-ins are hard to get out where they can't lift. So if you could maybe have a look at, not this year, but in the future, maybe being able to help the food bank in delivering it. Our problem with our volunteers delivering is insurance costs and vehicle usage. So I'm sure that's something that you all need to look at also. If you slip and fall on someone's doorstep and they're a renter and they don't have insurance, who's covered? We tried the model this year of not delivering Christmas hampers. It was a huge success. We gave out gift cards, and everyone that came in for a hamper got their gift card at that time. And there was only one lady in town that was not able to get out to get her hamper or her gift card. We did have a volunteer that drove it over to her home, so.
All right.
If there's nothing else.
It looks like you're gonna get off lucky. The information was well prepared and easy to digest, so for that, thank you. And the other side of it, as Councillor Butcher mentioned, is our thanks to you for an essential foundation block within our community. It's something that unfortunately we're at in our community, and we appreciate everything that happens there and all of the work that goes into making that happen, because it's getting the hampers out is actually the easy part.
It is, as you know, it is very easy. It's, that part of it I find enjoyable, actually, and I've met a lot of really nice people that receive hampers. I really have. I've met a few challenging people, but I'm challenging too. Mel knows that one. But overall, I find it very, I don't know, comforting that I'm able to help someone. Heavens knows when I may need the time. And for 7 churches 32 years ago to come together and see the need, look how they've grown. They started off with 25 people in 1 year. Now we're up to over 2,800 people a year. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please understand you're always welcome to come and visit. Just talk to Miranda and you can make that happen no matter when.
Proper paperwork, of course.
Perfect.
Yes.
Paperwork, oh my heavens. I don't do paperwork. I will leave this with you, Miranda, so that you can copy
It's
it.
like the cluster.
It's up to me for
Don't.
I'll add it in.
charity. Thank you. All right, thank you one and all. Have a great night.
Lady Susan.
Now you can tell all the jokes you want after. Bye-bye.
On to agenda item number 8.1, April 30th Special Council Meeting Minutes. Councillor Cosby?
I move that the minutes of April 30th, 2026 special council meeting be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? It's carried unanimous. I would like to point out too, if I could please, to council, there'll be a little bit different language from time to time from the table. And I just noticed it, which reminded me, Miranda was caught up with the electronics. We had the vote. There was no way she could see what was going on. So you might hear me exaggerate the commentary as to what the vote was, just to help her out in collecting the information for the minutes. That was unanimous, that one. So now we have the meeting of May 5th, 2026. Councillor Smith?
I move the minutes of May 5th, 2026 council meeting be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Regular council meeting of May 19th. Councillor Olson?
Make motion that the minutes from the May 19th, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted and circulated.
Thank you. Discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Committee of the whole meeting minutes of May 26th. Councillor Smith?
I'll move that the minutes of the May 26th committee of the whole meeting be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call that question. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. And regular council meeting minutes of June the 2nd, 2026. Councillor Spicer?
I'll move that the minutes of June 2nd, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Discussion. Call that question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Agenda item 9.1, the Rose Ridge Ways Commission. Ms. Tingley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So this is a continuation of our discussion over the last several meetings in regards to the Rose Ridge Regional Curbside Initiative. So the purpose of this particular RFD is just to kind of provide more supplemental information coming out of the last meeting upon your request. But the proposed motion is that council approve the town's participation in Rose Ridge Waste Commission's regional collaboration model and authorize the CAO to execute any agreements necessary to implement the town's participation. So I just want to note that this information relates to how we administer garbage, but it doesn't have any impact on the motion at hand. It's just supplemental information that was requested at the last meeting. So the background outlines the information that was presented at the last meeting in regards to our rates. That's for your information, so we can build on that with a discussion piece. So we did a bit of a deep dive into the two sets of rates, so the base fee and what that fee structure looks like over the last 10 years, as well as the garbage rates. So you'll notice the base fee from 2017 to 2026 went from $6 to $7 in 2018, and then from $7 to $8 in 2023, but it's remained constant since then. And when I reviewed the residential collection rates, it was apparent that they were tied to the GFL contract rates. So the initial contract with GFL was effective from October 1st, 2016 to September 30th of 2019. So the cost for each service was increased on January 1 of each year at a rate of 2%. And so you'll see that on the garbage fees every single year. At January 1, it was 2% higher than the previous year per the contract term. So a new contract was signed in 2021 for the following year at a lower rate. So this resulted in a reduction of the residential fee to the $12.25 that we see today, and a transfer to the general utility reserve for the difference between the garbage revenue less the cost for this contract annually. So that's how we arrived at the garbage reserve transfer each year to our general utility account. I also included, for information purposes, an excerpt from the budget presentation that outlined the changes in administering the garbage utility over the last 4 years. Well, I guess 2026 is budgeted for information purposes. So administrative operating costs include wages, contributions, overhead relating to computer support services, insurance, and office supplies, as well as overall utility costs. So the system operating costs, as seen above, they include the GFL contract costs, tipping charges, and the Big Bin event. So the Big Bend event is offset by other revenue in the form of a reserve transfer out of that garbage, the general utility reserve into revenue to offset the cost. So again, note that this has been compiled for information purposes and it does not impact the proposed motion above, as there are no financial implications at this time relating to the Rose Ridge Regional Initiative. And that concludes our RFD.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just
Go ahead, Mr. Van
a little
Buell.
bit of supplemental information, because I did do a bit of a dive into the video recordings of some council meetings. And in the so it would have been in November of 2021 was when this was presented to council at a budget meeting. Here's where it gets a little dicey. There was a question asked by a councillor about how the rates came and what we were doing because the rates were going down. And it was Councillor Olson who asked the question. Unfortunately, the discussion on that ended up being in a closed session where the explanation came. So we lose from our perspective, we kind of lost what that discussion was. And what came out of that later on in December was an RFD that came forward that basically said approve administration to sign the new GFL contract. So unfortunately, without having the specifics, I wasn't there. I don't believe Ms. Tingley was there. Mr. Davison might have been there. But again, it wasn't, the discussion on how that contract worked was in closed session because the contract hadn't been signed yet. So that's where we kind of lose some continuity.
I remember that, and I know exactly why we went to closed session.
So hopefully it answers the question, but it really doesn't answer the question. I wasn't there at the time, but I just wanted to add that we did a pretty deep dive on this to try and figure out how that happened, and we hit that dead end when all of a sudden we went into a closed session, and for obvious reasons, kind of lose the trail there.
I can spill my guts.
No, I prefer you don't, actually. Because if it...
Yeah.
Anyway, again, I just wanted to let council know that we turned over a lot of stones to try and find the answer, but...
Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Excuse me. I move that council approve the town's participation in the Rose Ridge Waste Commission Regional Collaboration Model and authorize the CAO to execute any agreements necessary to implement the town's participation.
Open the table for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, Dwayne and I, Dwayne's still on the board, this has been a long time coming. And I think it's a step in the right direction for collaboration. So I'm all for it.
Anything else from council?
I just want, Rob should be included in that there.
Yes, 'cause
Started
he
back
was-
with Rob.
Yeah.
On the board account.
I think it's gonna be a good thing. There's gonna be some bugs, obviously, the same as anything starting new. And what, in the long run, it should be beneficial to everybody involved.
As an ex officio member of any of our committees and what have you, I try to rely primarily on the members of council that go to those committee meetings regularly and have a long-term understanding. I attended one a month and a half ago or 2 months ago that was being held in Gibbons, and I was quite impressed with the presentation they put on the table. And I have to say that as an outsider looking in, because I hadn't been to any of those commission meetings where I heard the nuances leading up to and conversations about. So I was quite impressed with the information that came forward. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Susan Berry does a tremendous job of making sure that everything's spelt out the way it should be and doesn't leave anything to the imagination. If it's not something that she can answer, she makes sure that she gets consultants in and gets all the questions answered before the questions asked.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Not all committees run that well. Go ahead.
I'm still not convinced that we're not setting ourselves up to be dealing with a monopoly 5-10 years down the road. Are you guys convinced that this is not going to turn into, like, it'll be good for us, but 10 years from now, is it still going to be good for Redwater?
Thank you for that. If I'm not, if I'm remembering correctly, there's an escape clause within that process that allows for an automatic withdrawal by the community if we find that we're in a deficit position. So that's the only thing I can say with respect to your question, but perhaps Ms. Tingley or Mr. Van Buell.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So I think the key point in this whole thing is it is voluntary. And one of the things that we have to do to make this work is we have to continue to maintain our own bylaw. And so the way this ends up being is it's a different form of contracting out. Instead of us contracting directly with GFL, what we're doing is we're authorizing Rose Ridge to negotiate on our behalf. Again, if we go through 3 contract cycles, and I'll just use that, if there's 3 threes as an example to get Councillor Cowley to get to your 10-year outlook. If we go and we go, look, we're not getting competitive bids, and we're not convinced that we're getting a competitive price. And there's a lot of ways that we can judge that. We can look at what other communities are paying, for their garbage collection. We can withdraw and go on our own again. And I think the key to that is we have to maintain our own bylaw. And I think that was one of the things, quite frankly, that sold me on it is, we're not selling ourselves forever. What we're doing is we're entering into an arrangement where we're going to allow Rose Ridge to do this on our behalf. And the benefit is we get a bigger, we get more households involved, which should actually drive down the cost, on a per household basis over time. Now, I say that and everybody goes, oh, over time your garbage costs are going to go down. That would be with the caveat that the current legislative structure stays in place. And we know that there's a whole number of initiatives that are underway around capping methane and where you can put landfills, et cetera, that I think unfortunately are going to drive that cost up. So, in the end, our hope is that at the very worst, we minimize those increases over time. And again, we're in control of that. We can opt out, at any time because it is our bylaw that allows us to do this.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you for that. I guess my reply to that, Councillor Cowley, is as long as there's more than one service provider, we'll always have the lowest rate. And going in as a group should still prove that we'd have the lowest rate. If we went individually, even if it got down to 2 contractors, if we went individually, we would never get the same price as a group.
Does that help at all, Councillor Cowley? More questions?
No, it helps, but again, it's like if we decide to step away from Fortis now, we'll be on our own, be competitive, but there's no infrastructure. If we decide to step away from GFL and Rose Ridge in 10 years, there is no competition. You can't do it. You've given up the infrastructure.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
We have no infrastructure now.
We have contracted infrastructure.
And it could, but that in 10 years could be the same no matter whether we step away from it now or 10 years from now too. So I'm not quite following.
You're starting up your business, man. You're starting up. Are you gonna start up to serve Sturgeon County and 6 municipalities? Or are you gonna be able to afford to start up to serve one town? You can't grow a business if it's gotta start out as a monster. It's gotta start out small to grow competition, to grow a business. Like
Mr.
we're
Van,
relying on Edmonton or St. Albert or GFL. We're never gonna have our own small business here that provides ways to pick.
Mr. Van Buren, you had a
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I just want to clarify when I say we can step out of that contract. Stepping out of the regional contract doesn't step us out of participation in Rose Ridge. So as far as the infrastructure, we can still be part of Rose Ridge and not be part of the regional pickup model. We can still go on our own, you know, and I guess in worst case scenario, and I'm not advocating this in any way, shape, or form. Municipalities got out of this business a long time ago because it didn't make sense, and that is do our own garbage pickup, right? There's nothing stopping the town from buying their own garbage truck and, you know, hiring garbage collectors and doing that ourselves and then taking it to Rose Ridge. So from an infrastructure perspective, I think Councillor Spicer hit the nail right on the head, is we don't own that infrastructure unilaterally. We own that infrastructure through participation on the commission. And my understanding is, and I've asked this question a couple times of Susan, we don't have to participate in the regional model for garbage collection. That does not kick us, that does not take us out of the Rose Ridge equation. So we would still have that infrastructure as part of being part of the Rose Ridge Commission, no different than we do now.
Councillor Smith,
Yeah, we are Rose Ridge. It's not a private enterprise, it's a group of municipalities, so we're protected that way.
For the Rose Ridge portion.
Yes.
So I understand your question to be, Councillor Cowley, getting the garbage from my house to Rose Ridge. That's where the concern exists. And I'm old enough here in Redwater to think back to the Parmkey days when we had a garbage collection process here in town. And that was taken up by other companies and migrated and built and what have you. And I would suggest down the road, if somebody else was looking at that type of a process, their business model would have to incorporate some form of strategy to pick up enough businesses to make it worthwhile, enough customers to have a reasonable base to provide it at a reasonable cost. And I think the single biggest thing is we also have a regional service with our emergency management. And it's the exact same process where we have our own bylaw that marries the other bylaws, but it allows us to move out if we had to. We couldn't support emergency management on our own if we had to, but we can as a group make it work. So kind of a parallel there. Further? You're okay.
That's fine.
Good. Thanks for the question, because it's important to ask them. All right. Further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call that question. All in favor? Opposition? 6-1. Thank you. Nothing under agenda item 10 for bylaws. Agenda item 11, new business, public tax auction date. And I believe, Ms. Tingley, we're back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So purpose of this RFD is to establish a date for the 2026 public tax auction. The proposed motion is listed below. Administration recommends that council carry the above proposed motion. So every year, administration prepares a tax arrears list for parcels of land that are more than 1 year in arrears, no later than March 31st. So this is information that's reported during the committee of the whole meeting, along with a update as to a reduction of the properties on notification to be removed from this list, and those that have tax agreements, et cetera. So the properties that will be up for auction this November 17th, 2026 were put on notification last March of 2025 and remain unpaid. So 3 properties at this time. So if the tax arrears remain unpaid after the March 31st, they get added to tax notification as I indicated and then go through sale through the public auction. So council is required to set a date to hold public auction for the properties as shown in the arrears list per the MGA, section 418. So timing of an auction in November provides notice of arrears to be sent with the current tax notice that was mailed out last month. And it gives just like an additional opportunity, just a little bit more time for taxpayers to get caught up ahead of the November auction date. This is a time-sensitive process. A lot of dates have to be adhered to per the MGA, so that's why we are starting now. There are some costs associated with the advertising in the Alberta Gazette and local newspapers, but per our fees and charges bylaw, the costs associated with tax recovery notification, including advertising costs, will be automatically applied to the associated tax rolls. And that concludes my RFD.
Councillor Cosby.
I move that the 2026 public tax auction be held on Tuesday, November 17th, 2026 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Discussion, council. I have one question, and I know you can't be specific with this, but are we seeing a cyclical scenario each year, the same properties going through the mill, or are these different properties from time to time?
So the way that it's written, we can't, once a property's gone up for auction, it can't go again. And so I'd have to go back to study some trends, but I'm not seeing the same properties in like the small cycle that I've been with the municipality. It hasn't been long enough to see the cycles through, but I am seeing some coming up that could be part of that process where they pay down and then become part of it. But with the new initiative this year and contacting everyone who was put on notification for 26 to get ahead of the 27 deadline and just really explaining the process and trying to get them to mitigate the extra costs associated with the auction process, because these 3 properties had to be appraised, which we'll talk about in the next RFD, and those costs are added to the tax roll. And for the commercial properties especially, it's an extra tax as well. So we want to get ahead of that to avoid these properties. So I can't say specifically because I don't have that information at this time. But if it is something that council is interested in, it can be part of my initiative that I've outlined in Cal, where we're starting to study those, like the trends in the aging from like the 2022, 23, 24 that are remaining unmoved, to see if they're part of that equation.
Okay. And I understand the one auction scenario, but I was referring more to the lead up to the auction. So if somebody doesn't pay this year, they get notified, fine, they come in and pay when they get notified, and then next year they get notified and they come in and pay, and that's what I was referring to. So
surprisingly not any that stick out in my mind, which is good news.
Councillor Spicer?
It was just a clarification. So if they don't actually go to auction, but they get paid off beforehand, then they're not considered going for auction and they can't be put back on again. Okay, that's just clarification.
Yeah, then they're off and then it starts again. So there's one property here right now that they understand that it's had to be appraised, and we've talked about the circumstances, and so it's likely that it will be paid prior to auction, which is really great news. And they understand that we have to follow the motions of this and there will be the extra charge. So I'm hopeful, I'm cautiously optimistic that there won't actually be an auction in November, but we still have to follow the motions.
Good.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could, Ms. Tingley referred to one, that is the one that I'm aware of, and it's one that I've worked with very closely for a number of years, and yes, it's not back to square one, but it's awfully close.
Okay. Anything further from council? Questions? Then I'll call a question on the motion for November 17th, 2026 at 10 a.m. All in favor? That's carried unanimous. And reserve bids, conditions of sale for public tax auction, 11.2. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a continuation of my last RFD to establish reserve bids for the properties eligible for the public tax auction and conditions for the sale. The proposed motion is listed above or listed below, and I apologize. It is lengthy, but every single point is necessary for this motion. Administration recommends that the motion be carried. So background, this is section 419 of the MGA. Council is required to set for each parcel of land a reserve bid that is as close to the closest reasonably possible to the market value of the parcel. What's unique this year is that in the past I was given ranges of property value. This year I was given specifics. So it kind of removed any sort of guesswork in terms of setting reserve bids. And so since 2022, we've used a third-party independent appraiser to establish a reserve bid. There's no change this year. We use the same appraiser. So it's to ensure that the most fair market value is applied and utilized for the reserve bid. And we try to have the appraisal happen as close as we can to the deadline so that it fairly represents the value leading up to auction. So the appraiser was out the last week of May to have this ready for the report today. So you'll see in Schedule A the 3 tax rolls listed: the lot, block, and plan, the municipal address, their assessment value, their appraisal value, and then the reserve bid, which is equal to the appraisal. And that concludes my RFD.
Thank you. Just a point before we take the motion, can it be all one motion, or do you want those segregated into individual motions?
It can all be one motion.
Just one?
Yep.
Perfect. I just wanted to confirm that. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I move that the public auction reserve bids for each roll be set per the recommended reserve bid values included in the attached Schedule A, and further that the conditions be set as follows. Each parcel will be offered for sale, subject to a reserve bid and to the reservations and conditions contained in the existing certificate of title. The land is being offered for sale on an as-is, whereas basis, and the town of Redwater makes no representation and gives no warranty whatsoever as to the adequacy of services, soil conditions, land use districting, building and development conditions, absence or presence of environmental contamination, or the developability of the subject land for any intended use by the purchaser. No bid will be accepted where the bidder attempts to attach conditions precedent to the sale of any parcel. No terms and conditions of sale will be considered other than those specified by the town. No further information is available at the auction regarding the land to be sold. The town of Redwater may become the owner of any parcel of land that is not sold at the public auction immediately after the public auction. Terms: cash or certified check. Redemption may be effective by payment of all arrears of taxes and costs at any time prior to the sale.
Thank you. Discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Cowley.
The assessment and the appraisals are nowhere near each other. The assessment's supposed to be market value, and the appraisal's supposed to be market value. So what?
If you'll, I'm trying to think of when you started in relation to Tanmar Consulting's explanation of the assessed value, but there will always be a discrepancy in the assessed value compared to the appraised value, and there's a bunch of different factors, and I will do it a little bit of a disservice by explaining it, but I'll try my best here. So the effective date for the appraisal is it's not current. It's a specific point in time, as at July 1st of 2025, and it's not necessarily the market value at this time. And so this reflects current market values. There is one property there, sorry, so just scroll down to it now to see it. There's one that's significantly lower, and that's due to the state of the property when it was appraised. And that's something that's been flagged with Tanmar Consulting as well. So if they need to adjust the assessment value, that's on their end as well. But it's the same as you'll notice when you sell your property. If you compare what you sell your property now, or what you can market your property for, to what your assessed value is, there would always gonna be a discrepancy, and it's often that the assessed value is lower than the market value. So this is a trend we see, and this is a really common question we get during tax time as well.
But this isn't lower. This is 4.5 times lower.
So are you talking about the last property?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the one that I mentioned. It's the condition. This is a very specific.
The house has been deteriorating for years. It didn't just deteriorate in the last 9 months.
So that speaks to the assessor's process in assessing the properties and how it's not specific to every single property and how he reviews sections of properties every single year. And then if a homeowner sees that their assessment value doesn't accurately represent the state of their home, that's where they reach out to the assessor to get a reassessment or start the process of a reassessment.
Go ahead.
A little comment on, because this is one property I brought up with Tanmar, because wasn't impressed, because this one was coming up for sale one other time, I think, and the assessed value at that time was $79,000 or $80,000, and there's no way in the world anybody was going to buy it for that property, and that's, I think, got flagged a little bit with him, and so maybe this is why this came back this way. I don't know for sure, but
And it's difficult because it's two different third party, so we contract out for the assessment to someone who's qualified in that role, and then we contract out for the appraisal. So this information is compiled based on information that we have received from third party sources.
And then on, if I may,
Go ahead. Yeah.
on the commercial properties, the assessment is lowballed compared to the appraisal. Vacant property, how can the assessor be so far away from what the appraiser believes to be a market value of a vacant lot?
And these might be really great questions for Tanmar Consulting.
Will they answer?
I can't speak to that.
I can. They won't.
he comes here every year.
Yep.
I was here when he was here. I was sitting over there in the back row. And the questions he got were not tough. They were gentle.
Go ahead, Mr. Van Buel.
Councillor Kelly, I think your questions are absolutely valid. And as a homeowner, what I can, I own a home in a different municipality, but it is not the municipality's responsibility to ensure that your assessment is correct. It is the homeowner's responsibility or the landowner's responsibility to ensure that their assessment is correct.
By dealing with the assessor which the municipality hires.
Yeah. But there is a process to appeal that assessment. If when you talk to the assessor, if you don't come to a satisfactory conclusion, you have the ability to appeal that assessment and take it to an independent body.
As a council, we're here to serve our residents.
Right.
And if we can see that they're miles away, something's wrong, we should do something.
Go ahead, Ms. Tingley.
I'm not speaking to these specific properties here, but to the volume of calls that we receive once we send out these notices. And typically if there's an issue with the assessment, the assessment they expect to be lower. They want the value to be lower because that's the basis of their taxes. It's not necessarily that they think their assessment should be closer to market value. Because anytime there's some sort of discrepancy between what the resident thinks their assessment should be and what the assessment is showing on their tax notice, we direct them to Tanmar Consulting, and he can usually explain it in a way where an assessment will be triggered. Sorry, a reassessment. But I am hearing your concerns, but it doesn't speak to the calls that we're getting. Their concern is the dollar amount of their tax bill.
Go ahead, Mr. Van Buel.
So, Councillor Kelly, and I too agree with you. And one of the concerns, and Ms. Tingley can vouch for this, and I think we've talked with this council in the past, and that is separating the assessment process from the tax process.
Yep.
Because right now, people believe that they're coming in and they appeal their taxes because the assessment and the tax notice go out at the same time. And one of the things from administration's perspective is we'd like to separate that process so that the assessment goes out before the tax notices go out. Because it very clearly then says, this is what your assessment is. And You have the ability to appeal your assessment. And our ability to educate the public on what that means is far, I think, more impactful from my perspective, if you're dealing with just the assessment and not the assessment and the taxes. Because as Ms. Tingley pointed out, most people come in, I want to appeal my taxes. Well, we understand what you're trying to do, but you don't actually appeal your taxes, you appeal your assessment. And so, again, I agree with you, Councillor Cowley. I think there is some things we can do, and from my perspective, the best thing we can do is separate those two processes and educate our public as to how that process works in its entirety without clouding the issue between what you're actually appealing. And I know communities that do it and that way, and the feedback that I've got from them is their appeals go down, for one, like the number of appeals and even questions in their offices go down about what's my assessment. Right? And, but again, that's my opinion, and it's certainly something that we can discuss with council, as we move forward, because changing that date sounds easy, for when we want our assessments to go out, but it does create some issues internally, not the least of which is when that assessment role has to be completed by.
Go ahead, Councillor Cow.
I agree with you 100%. The assessment should go out separately. It is, but there's other issues with our taxes too and our policies. I would like council to sit down and thoroughly discuss it. It's like that 73% formula for commercial and residential split. The interest on it's called penalties, but the interest and when it's applied for the taxes. I have something else too, I can't remember what it was. There's a whole bunch of issues that need to be discussed and sorted out. And so we need to get it on an agenda at some point so it can be incorporated if we choose to do so for 2027. Not start looking at it in January 2027 when it's done.
If I might throw a little more fuel into the fire with respect to this too, is the assessment process is directed through Municipal Government Act and the regulations attached to it. The single biggest problem that we have with this variance between assessment and appraisal, in my opinion, is that Tanmar sent out notifications to to a section of town, to all the residents. I think they got back 32% or 28%. So based on those responses, they're able to drive down the street and say, well, this house is worth about that, this house is worth about that, this house fits into that picture, so it's worth about this. But when they get to this point, the focus is, what is that house actually? What's in it? So the appraisal becomes extremely difficult, and contrary to what we had for the assessment, because you're actually taking a finite look at that one house, not an area, not a general response to a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1,200 square foot bungalow. So all of a sudden, when you get to this area of tax arrears and what have you, the appraisal has to be based on what is actually there. So somebody's going to look in windows, somebody's going to ask questions and what have you. And when you have something like some of these residences that are left unattended or haven't been maintained for a while, all of a sudden it pops up that what was assumed in July of last year isn't anywhere what June of this year actually is. So there's a whole problem with the actual process, not just what's on the paper, but how it's obtained. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Excuse me. Without changing the date or anything, is there any way you can find out why there's so much discrepancy on this one value? Like, find out how Tanmar arrived at that figure, and then find out how the appraiser arrived at that figure. There's gotta be someplace in the middle that,
So you want to revisit the dollar amount for the reserve bid?
don't worry about the date. The date is fine, but just, well, no, I'm not even asking to revisit it. Just
Clarification.
clarify, why there's so much discrepancy.
I
Go ahead,
can answer
Councillor
that to a
Spicer.
certain amount. The assessment is, I'm just gonna say, it's a 1,200-foot bungalow, so every 1,200-foot bungalow in this area is approximately worth this much, $89,000. That's where they came up with. That one, in this case, is a little smaller, right? I know it's a small house, but now the guy comes along with the appraisal and he looks at the house and he goes, holy smokes, the roof's falling in. I'd only give $20,000 for that. So that's the discrepancy right there. Tanmar might not even have looked at that house. And not to throw Tanmar under the bus or anything, it's just a generalization of what's going on in that area of that size of house.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Spicer, I think you make a really good point here in that the assessments do not look at every house individually. But when you do an appraisal, that specific house is the one that gets done. And they use a whole bunch of figures as well. They'll use, prior sales on this, they try to find a comparable. And the hardest thing to do with appraisals is, and I've had this happen my own, is the appraiser says, I don't have a comparable for your house in this area. And so this is what I think it is, right? Because the appraisals are based on comparable sales in your area. And like Councillor Spicer said, it's specific to that. It's not generalized in an area. And
Like an assessment is.
yeah, right, and that's, it's part of the problem with property tax assessment. And I won't jump on this one, but the whole, funding municipal government through property tax, I'll say it, it's so antiquated, it doesn't work.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I just have Mike's presentation in front of me right now. So the assessors use mass appraisal. This is the process of evaluating large groups of properties as of a given date using common data, mathematical models, and statistical tests. The focus is on the larger group, not a specific property. So as Mr. Van Buel mentioned, the onus is on the property owners to reach out for that reassessment.
Go ahead, Councillor Olson.
I call a question.
Okay. Motion is a long one and is on the floor, and the question has been called. All in favor? Opposition? 6-1. Thank you. I think 11.3 is Mr. Davison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
And
I have a much shorter motion for you.
Costly.
More expensive.
But it definitely comes with a bigger dollar sign. All right. So let's get started here. So as you know, as the title says, I'm here looking for a couple of operating budget amendments. Please disregard the capital in the first line. We did a last minute switch on funding and changed one of them up. Excuse me. So I'm here to seek additional funding for sanitary line repairs resulting from unforeseen sanitary service failures on Eastview Crescent. You might have seen the area currently doesn't have a sidewalk, and we've got a road patch to do there. This amendment will be funded through the existing water main repairs emergency repair, contractor digs operating budget. You have the GL line there with an additional $10,000 funded from the water and sewer reserve. In relation to our second operating amendment, this one is for additional water meters, ERTs, and ERT wiring due to increased failure rates of aging meter infrastructure. As I go through the recommendations and the discussions, I'll break them up just like they are in the RFD. So our recommendation, administration recommends that council approve both budget amendments in order to address unforeseen sanitary infrastructure failures on Eastview Crescent, utilising the existing emergency repair budget and a limited transfer from the water and sewer reserve, and maintain continuity of utility operations throughout the replacement of aging and failed water metering infrastructure. Onto the background in relation to Eastview Crescent. In March 2026, a sanitary service repair was completed on Eastview Crescent under winter operating conditions. Due to frozen ground conditions, a ground thaw unit was required to complete the excavation and repair. The initial repair appeared to resolve the issue, however, a further sanitary backup occurred in spring of this year. Upon inspection, an additional section of the existing vitrified clay sanitary service line failed and required a second repair. Repair costs are as follows. The initial repair, $18,814.64. The secondary repair, $10,527.04, for a total of $29,341.68, including GST, and the pre-GST number is there. As you know, we don't pay GST. The 2026 water operating budget includes funding under GL 2-4100530 for water main repairs, emergency repair contractor digs. Administration is proposing to use the existing emergency repair that's currently in the operating budget and to supplement with an additional $10,000 from the water and sewer reserve. In 2025, the emergency repair operating budget was not fully utilised, resulting in some unused funding returning to the reserve. This happens on a fluctuating basis year over year, as we may have an emergency and we may not. If we do not, it returns to the reserve. So it's a take as you need kind of deal, but we do put some in the budget regardless. Onto the water meter replacement side of the house, water meters and associated ERTs. And before anyone asks me, it is an encoder receiver transmitter, little digital device, very handy. Infrastructure installed during the 2007-2008 meter replacement program are now reaching the end of their expected service life of approximately 15 to 20 years. As you may have heard in the CAL report, I've been over this a couple of times, but we're experiencing failures at a rate of around about 12 units per month. They are nearing end of service life. The issue we are facing is that a lot of them are failing. We're not getting that extended period of time that we may get it from time to time, but whether it be manufacturer, whoever you want to point the finger at the end of the day, some things just aren't built as well as they were before, and we don't see the expected amount of service life, so we'll be adjusting those as we move forward as per our asset management policies. This will cover 100 meters, ERTs, and associated ERT wires, with estimated cost totaling approximately $48,000. On to the discussion side of the house, as far as Eastview Crescent is concerned, I won't go back over it in detail other than say all the vitrified clay pipe can be susceptible to cracking, separation, root intrusion, and localized collapse. In this case, the initial winter repair addressed a known failure at the time. However, a further section of pipe failed in the spring, resulting in the second repair. We maintain an annual operating budget for emergency utility repairs, as I just explained a second ago. Contractor digs due to the unpredictable nature of underground infrastructure failures. Actual use of this budget fluctuates each year, and I won't go back into that. We get the picture. Using the existing emergency repair operating budget with a limited $10,000 transfer for the water and sewer provides a practical and transparent approach to funding these repairs while maintaining alignment with the intent of the existing budget. So while we had $25,000 in there, it didn't quite cover what we needed on this one. So, as far as the water meter replacements go, as we know, water metering infrastructure is a critical operational and revenue management component of the town's utility system. As aging meters, ERTs continue to fail, administration is experiencing increased maintenance demands and reduced inventory availability. Failure to replenish inventory presents operational risks, which include delayed replacement of failed meters, inaccurate or interrupted utility readings, increased staff response and troubleshooting requirements, and potential impacts to utility billing accuracy. The requested budget amendment will allow administration to continue replacing failed units in a timely manner while maintaining adequate operational inventory levels, and that's a critical piece, because as we get closer to winter, we do see a spike in failed units, whether it be freezing, leaking, many other issues. On to the financial implications. The total cost of the Eastview Crescent sanitary repairs, $29,341.68. Funding will be provided through, or proposed to be provided through, as I said before, the existing operating budget. and additional transfer from water and sewer reserve of 10,000. And as far as the water meter replacement goes, is an operating budget amendment of 48,000, and the funding source will be the general utility reserve. Internal impacts supports continued reliability of utility infrastructure and service delivery, reduces operational risk associated with aging infrastructure failures, maintains adequate inventory levels for ongoing utility operations, reduces emergency response requirements and service disruptions, and obviously improves our water loss accounting and accuracy, which is also important. As far as external impacts go, supports reliable sanitary and water utility services for residents, minimizes potential service interruptions and utility backups, improves continuity and accuracy of utility metering and billing services, demonstrates proactive management of aging municipal infrastructure. I won't go through the strategic alignment, but you can see we're pretty well aligned to three of our strategic alignment priorities. And again, there's the relevant list of legislation, standards, policies and plans, one of which is a Municipal Government Act, obviously our internal asset management policy, the approved 2026 operating budget, water and wastewater utility lifecycle management practices, and OH&S legislation related to utility excavation infrastructure repair activities. In relation to the communication plan, budget amendments will be reflected in the updated 2026 operating budget documents. Internal communication will occur between operations and finance departments regarding approved budget adjustments if it's approved, and no additional public communication is anticipated beyond regular council reporting processes. And that is my RFD. Thank you.
Councillor Cully.
I move that council approves an amendment to the 2026 operating budget for sanitary line repairs, utilizing the existing water main repairs, emergency repair, contractor digs operating budget under GL 241-00530, and further approves an additional $10,000 transfer from the water and sewer reserve to fund the remaining costs associated with Eastview Crescent sanitary repairs.
Thank you. Discussion, council? Not seeing any. Go ahead.
And that's going to be enough to do the paving and the sidewalks?
Yeah, so the paving and sidewalks is under a separate capital project, and but that is included in that list to be repaired, as well as the road patch. I just got the quote for the road patch today, actually, so we'll be able to fit all of that in.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this might answer your question maybe a little more. The other 5,000, we're still not halfway through the year, so we wanted to have at least a little bit of dollars there just for minor repairs. But if we have another major repair like we have, unfortunately, we'll be back here.
Further discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
So just on that, this is actually really the only major failure, and I wouldn't even call this a major. This is a minor failure, but this is the only one we've had in the last 4 years. So we've been traveling pretty well.
Smack you for saying that.
We're looking pretty good, but I believe I'm not going to jinx myself. I think we're good.
Just stop.
But, yeah.
Seeing nothing nothing else from council, I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Second motion. Councillor Smith.
The council approves the amendment to the 2026 operating budget in the amount of $48,000 for the purchase of additional water meters, ERTs, and ERT wiring required to maintain ongoing utility operations and water metering reliability.
Thank you. Discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Olson.
There's no other supplier for these ERTs? I mean,
There is
it's like selling you a truck, but you know, if you want to drive it, we're going to sell you the lug nuts extra.
yeah, it's
Buy the ERT, but to wire it up, come on.
we've included them. We've included them in there, but while they're broken out for cost wise, it's a package deal.
Yeah.
But as far as the meters themselves go, we are looking at other brands and other options. But as it seems to be pretty commonplace in a lot of industries at the moment, quality is down and cost is up. So that's the struggle we have at the moment. But the other piece is we really need to get on top of our listing of these and our management of the inventory. I know the guys have been working hard with the amount of homes we have in Redwater. It's something that wasn't tracked before. It's a lot of work to get around and write them down and inventory the whole lot, but they are working on it, and we're slowly but surely gathering ground on this. The big piece is now that we're resetting this with 100, we really need to make sure we record those and stay on top of them and budget pre-failure. So.
Councillor Spicer.
Two things. One, it's only $480 each. Like that for an item in plumbing and all that stuff. That's not very much actually these days. But the other is what's the turnaround? Like you order these 100, when are you going to have them? Are they in a month or 2 months? Or?
So that's the other piece is that it'll probably, while we'll order and pay immediately, it'll come through in stages.
Okay.
So as long as we can stay ahead of 12 a month, we should be fine. And that to say that we're having a failure rate of 12 per month right now. This could drop off to 6 per month. But what that means is that it just stays in inventory, and it's accounted for at the end of the year when inventory is counted. So we still realize that exactly. So we're not while we're putting a lot of money out right now. If we don't use them all, we carry that forward. So it's not a case of we're spending a ton of money and it's going down the drain. We're spending money for an inventory that will be accounted for financially.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I have just a quick question for Mr. Davison, and I know the answer, but I want you guys to know the answer. From an asset management perspective, we expected these meters to last X years, and they're only getting Y years. What is X and what is Y right now?
Yeah, so X is you expect them to last approximately 20 years. We're seeing under 15. So it's it's one of those things. But again, sometimes when the original date was set, it may not have been particularly accurate, and that's what we want to fix. Is that we want to get on top of those dates through correct asset management practices, and be able to get to these before they start becoming a problem. Will we still have problems? Absolutely, because some water meters just fail, whether it be freezing, whether it be any number of things. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is tighten up our practices, which we're working very hard on at the moment. I know Chris is putting a lot of work into lists and accounting for the meters, and he's very diligent in doing that, so we're going to keep working on that, and hopefully within the next, I probably shouldn't promise a timeline, but at the end of the day, we hope within the next couple of years that we're in a situation where we've got all of these accounted for, and we're able to start rolling a cycle for them. So.
Although we don't know the exact date of what we're looking at for a lifespan right now, when you're talking 20 years, you're getting 12. At best, we're getting the low end of the 15 to 20 years. Mm-hmm. At worst, we're not making the 15 years. So from an asset management perspective, that's important information for us to know for the next, as Mr. Davison said, for that next cycle. We're probably not going to be budgeting these at a 20-year turnaround. We're probably going to be in a 15-year turnaround, which 5 years is a lot of, that's an eternity in an asset, and what it does is it shortens your ability to amortize that cost instead of amortizing. It's like buying a car. Are you paying it off over 5 years, or are you paying it off over 3 years? That payment is significantly different, right? And that's the same for us.
Mr. Davison, we've talked about this from our perspective of asset management and cycling, et cetera. What does it mean for our resident when one of these fails? What's the bottom line on their side of the fence?
Absolutely. For the resident, obviously it's an interruption. Then it's the accuracy of their billing. So if the meters are failing and we have to average or anything along those lines, as you know, when you average your power or you average your gas or your water, it's usually a lot higher than what it actually winds up being. So that's where it goes for the residents. So outside of inconvenience, they may suffer some financial loss out of it, or upside, depending on which way the averaging goes. But generally, they're the two main pinch points. Yeah. So we need to improve our life cycle management, is what it comes down to, and that's what we're trying to do.
And this is identified because their bill comes out of whack.
That's right. Yeah. So we'll see from our perspective, we'll start seeing water loss changes, we'll start seeing abnormalities in water fluctuations. So at that point, we start asking those questions, and then the guys will go out and they'll check the meters. So our ladies here in the office do a fantastic job. They pick up on a lot of these little fluctuations, and if a meter either doesn't read or it reads way out of whack in comparison to what it's been reading throughout the year, the girls will get on the blower to one of the guys will go out and check the meter, and 9 times out of 10 it's a failure. So, yeah.
And just the last question I have is, I know the gas meters have to be changed out regularly every 7 years, I think is the cycle for a gas meter. Is there a cycle for the water meters, or they just stay?
Yeah, not quite the same. They're inspected and tagged like everything else, but they have a life cycle they're expected to run through. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. We're looking for motion number 2 for the operating budget, 2026 operating budget increase of $48,000. Yes, I say that's the motion that's on the floor. So any further discussion? Call that question, all in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Reports. Councillor Spicer, anything to report? Councillor Cowley, anything more for yours?
I have a question. It's not actually part of the report. We got some letters from a resident that was sent to, I believe, to you and to Connie. They're not on the agenda. Do they come to council ever?
Yes, they do. It's just unfortunately that letter came yesterday, I think it was. So it didn't make this agenda. It will be on a future agenda.
I think he sent one on Thursday, and then he sent a follow-up on Saturday.
Yeah, I got it on Saturday, and then I talked to Mayor McRae, and I sent it out to everybody.
They do come to council.
Yeah. And has anybody responded to him so he's not left sitting there thinking that they're ignoring me after 50 years?
That would be up to Councillor Butcher. She was
Actually, I did respond to him, and I said that I sent it out to the rest of the council, and it will come up at probably the next meeting.
We do respond, and if I get anything, it's the same process, but
I was actually shocked.
I'm not on his mailing list.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with what he said or responding to it or whatever.
I think it's a big problem in your area, the grass and...
Councillor Butcher, anything to report?
Nothing to report, Your Worship.
Councillor Olson?
Nothing to report.
Councillor Cosby?
I didn't submit a report, but I would like to do mine verbal. I attended the Committee of the Whole on the 26th of May. I drove to Elk Point and attended in person my first Northern Lights Library System meeting. The rest have been via Zoom. It was a very nice drive. It was an excellent board meeting. We reviewed the draft 2027 budget. Believe it or not, that's how far ahead we are. We had the AGM just to vote in a few of the zones for the executive committee. We redid the policy committees as well as the grievance committee. I did put my name forward again to remain on the policy committee as a general board member. On May 30th, along with Councillor Smith, part of volunteering as the library board, we assisted and helped out at the Big bin event for the electronics roundup for the library. I want to comment that the Public Works individual worked his butt off that day. Like, it was very busy. I would kind of like to know the numbers of our residents coming to use this bin versus Sturgeon County residents using these bins. But yes, very busy. The library did pull in approximately 3.21 tons, and that worked out to $1,605 in monetary value. June 2nd, regular meeting of council. June 4th, I attended the library board where we voted in a new vice chair as we lost a valuable member. She had moved away. What else here? The provincial grant application has been approved and submitted for funding. And there are two new individuals that will be coming forward at a future date for council for appointment to sit on the library. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The only addition to mine is, we had submitted to Fortis a request for funding for upgrading the lighting. And they have came through with $2,553 to upgrade the lighting and the rest of the lighting in the library.
Oh, nice.
So kudos to Fortis.
And my report as presented. For motion to accept, Councillor Cosby, thank you.
You're welcome.
And discussion? Call that question, all in favor? And that's carried unanimous. Correspondence and information. So, we did receive a letter from Municipal Affairs. Basically, the property tax accountability strategy allowed or has recommended or brought forward the fact that our provincial education requisition credit and the designated industrial requisition credit programs are approved for a 3-year extension through 2028. If council's aware, these are the processes whereby we are able to charge back education and the education portion of the taxes on unpaid tax bills. So that's the information we got from them. We got another 2 years this year and another 2 years on top of that. Look for motion to accept
Mr. Mayor, may I just make a comment on that, please? So I think this question was asked in the past, do we have anybody or any companies that are delinquent under this property tax program? And we do not. So we are one of the lucky ones. But if I could, this program, quite frankly, doesn't address the real problem of you know, what's happening in the province. We have delinquent properties, you know, in the oil industry. And yeah, the municipalities that are involved, you know, get to, at least they're not out of pocket for the money that they have to send to the province for the, you know, for the education portion. But every other requisition, they're still on the hook for. So if they have a requisition to a seniors housing foundation or library boards or whatever it is, that is money straight out of the municipality's pocket. Not to mention the tax revenue that they don't get from those properties, and that tax revenue is not collectible under the same process as a residential. Like when you don't get that money, that company goes defunct. That money is gone from your balance sheet as a municipality forever. There is no ability to collect or take the land or, you know, that process that we talked about earlier. So this is not even a finger in the dike. It's a toothpick in the dike for some municipalities. And again, we're not one of them, but make no mistake, this is a huge issue in a number of municipalities, and not just rural municipalities in the province. It is, you know, it's another drag on municipalities' ability to provide the services that their residents require.
Thank you. Motion under 13.1 to accept correspondence.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Butcher, thank you. Discussion? Questions? All that one, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously. 14.1, Councillor Cosby.
Move to close session.
Okay. Under 29.1A of the ETIA, the motion is to move to closed session. Questions? Call that one, all in favor? That's carried. Give us a minute Counselor Spicer,
Motion to come out of closed session?
discussion? Call that question, all in favor? That's unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
Counselor Cosby, thank you. All in favor?